This episode is sponsored by Black Label Meat. Black Label Meat only sells premium quality meat that is grass-fed, grass-finished, and they do regenerative grazing practices. Check them out now, blacklabelmeatcompany.com, and use the code Jesse for 10% off. Mark Collins, thank you for jumping on the podcast today. You are a pastor and a coach, correct?
Yes, I am.
All right. And you have a course and a book called Life Mastery. Let's jump into that. What is Life Mastery? What is the course? What is the book?
Oh, that's a great question, Jesse. Thanks. So, what is life mastery? And so, to me, it's the level of life that we're all created for, but most of us aren't living. What I tell the people that I work with is there's a difference between life mastery and life management. Most people, myself included, for most of my life, we're living from a place of life management, which means that life is happening and I'm responding to it, right? I may have a level of success or some sort of achievement that I have in my life, but really it's trying to manage the stress and the issues and the challenges and the negative thoughts and things that are coming up along the way. You know, I typically work with a lot of people who are striving for success, whether it's in their job or business or in the boardroom or whatever. But really for everybody, I see this area where you feel like you're kind of left with mostly the life that you're living. So instead of overcoming fear of failure and imposter syndrome, you're just trying to manage it along the way. Jesse had a person that I was in a conversation with, multi-millionaire, amazing business success in real estate and other areas. And he said this thing that really was wild. He said, you know, every time I have a new business transaction, I'm dealing with the imposter syndrome, fear of failure, and these things that are coming up. And he said this statement, he said, I guess it's just part of the journey. This is part of, you know, what I have to go through to be able to do this. And those are the kind of topics that really, to be totally honest, drive me crazy, because the truth of the matter is, why manage something that you're able to master and overcome? So really life mastery is living the life that you're created for, not dealing with the stuff that stands in the way and acting like that's what normal looks like.
Yeah, I've even heard Tony Robbins say there are times where he feels like he has imposter syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I appreciate Tony Robbins and all the things that he brings, but sometimes we really just bring in tools to manage our life. And what I tell people, and not slamming Tony Robbins or anybody specifically, but a lot of the personal development programs that I tried to use to unleash my hero in hiding, that guy that I desired to be, really came down to habits and change. And there's a difference between change and transformation, right? So what a lot of people try and do is they try and habit their way to freedom, and there's no way that it happens. The thing I tell the people that I work with is the habit you use to get there, you have to maintain to stay there. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't look like the life that I want to live. It doesn't look like life mastery. It doesn't look like the freedom that I'm striving for my clients to be working in. It really looks like exhaustion with another name on it. So at the end of the day, the work is for transformation. So me to unleash me, not to manage the stuff that's standing in the way. The more I understand who I'm created to be, the less I can be lied to and have to deal with those things. Because let's be honest, Jesse, imposter syndrome, fear of failure, anxiety, worry, stress, anger, all of these things are really your life lying to you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's that false little voice in the back of your head telling you that you can't or you're not good enough or it's not meant for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and here's the thing, you know, like you already know in your life as well, and I know in mine, what I tell the people I work with is you're either living from who you're created to be or what your life has told you. And no harm or foul. The truth of the matter is, when you don't know that there's an alternative, you're left with what's left, which is what everybody else is doing. And so for a lot of us, we think that, you know, those things are just something you have to deal with, right? It either stops you or holds you back or makes you hesitate or something you have to, you know, another mountain you have to overcome to get to your level of success. But when you find out that there's a different road, that there's a different path that you can take that can actually give the ability to overcome them once and for all, not have to manage them for the rest of your life. You know, once you find that out, now all of a sudden there's game on and you can have the success and the outcomes that you really desire in your life.
Let's just say all the knuckle draggers out there. What does it look like, the difference between actual transformation versus creating habits that lead to exhaustion? If
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
the kind of terms you're using.
That's a great question. So here's what
example. Yeah.
My definition of life mastery is this. So what we're going for in life mastery is it's me living from who I'm created to be in every area of life in the maximum level that I'm created for. Mm-hmm. So here's the difference between the two. Most times back to that identity statement, living from who you're created to be or what your life has told you. I don't know anybody, to be totally honest, apart from some sort of transformational program that's not living from where their past has told them. Whether you're hugely successful or not at all or somewhere in between, everybody has a voice and a past that's telling them who they are. But the truth of the matter is, in most cases, it's lying to you. Well, I'll be honest, in all cases, it's lying to you. You're not the sum total of your past. And so we can set that aside for the moment. But in that place, living from identity is living from who you're created to be. And what does it look like lived out? Well, it looks like me being able to be unleashed in the person I'm created to be. So it looks like me being able to live from the dreams, the visions, the goals, and the passions that I have for my life. How do you live it out? You figure out first and foremost, starting by that first step is identity. Who are you created to be?
Mm-hmm.
In most of our lives, the challenge, Jesse, is that we are living from this place of what I tell people is this: if I don't know who I'm created to be, if I don't know my identity, then the world has to make up the difference.
Yeah.
And most people are living from that place. Again, no harm, no foul. When you don't know there's a different playbook, you use the one you're given. Well, the one we're given is I need to succeed. I need to have a certain level of income. I need to have these possessions. I need to have this title, this role, this position. I need to have this successful business or amazing marriage or whatever, right? We have external things making up for a lack of identity. When I don't know who I am, the world has to make up the difference. And that difference means that I have to have all of these things happen in order for me to feel worthy and valued. And I'm not speaking in theory. This is not just what my clients have walked through, but what I have as well. Life Mastery I created because I was that guy. Having a father in my life who, thank God I had a father, but he was a person who I never felt like I measured up to.
Mm-hmm.
And so because you didn't feel worthy in your own house, you try and find your value outside of it. And so for me, Jesse, it was business success, creating and succeeding in business. But fear of failure and imposter syndrome came along for the ride. Getting my bachelor's degree, being able to academically succeed, athletically, getting my second degree black belt, succeeding in that realm as well. But in those places, all this stuff didn't leave. It just came along for the ride. And, as I said, I've got clients, Brett's one of them that comes to mind, where high level success, 6, 7, 8-figure transactions in business and real estate and other business transactions, while at the same time dealing with fear of failure on a daily basis. So this is what it looks like in most of our lives. My life has to be perfect for me to feel good about me. And when it's not, now all of a sudden you're angry, you're controlling, those things come into your mind, those negative mindsets and thought processes. Heaven forbid your business goes bankrupt or you lose your job. Now all of a sudden, then we find out where the holes are in our life. So what does it look like lived out for those regular people like you and me? Well, what it looks like is if my well-being, my emotional security, my feeling of worth and value is because of blank, whatever that blank is outside of myself, then you're not living from identity. You're allowing your world to tell you who you are. Again, no harm, no foul. That's where most of us are. It's the playbook that we've been given. But there's a difference between that and living from whom I'm created to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, I could impact some of those tools or I am statement and all of the other things that we use, but it really comes down to this. If I don't know who I am, my world has to make up the difference. And in that place, I'm hijacked by the outcomes that I have and I'm left with the result of it, which, like this gentleman, Brett, and frankly, a lot of clients that I've had, you have the success in your business, right? Amazing 8-figure income that you've created from these things. And the success and the excitement lasts about 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Because it's not a place of fulfillment. It's just a relief because that time I didn't fail, but then I always have to recreate it. And then I have to recreate it again. That's the exhaustion that you and I are talking about.
Or if it's all taken away from you,
then who are you?
Who are you? Exactly.
Exactly.
So how does one go about, since we're on like step one, how does one go about actually finding out their true identity?
Great question. So for me, first and foremost, we start with an I am statement. Who are you created to be? So it really is this. It's taking everything away, all of the outside things that you think you are, your title, your role, your position, your possessions, your income, and setting those aside and saying, who are you apart from those? That guy that's looking in the mirror, who is he, right? Something I could give as an example out of my own life. I'm a person of passion and character. I'm a person of value and worth. I'm black and white. When I'm all in, and I'm all in till the end. I care deeply. I love immensely, and I care for those people around me. I'm a friend that helps and values others. I'm a person that invests and blesses others. So all of those things I just said about myself had nothing to do with any outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
It really So in my book, Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default, I have a chapter, and the whole context of the chapter can be figured out in the title. The title is Your Character is Your Calling. At the end of
Mm,
the day, we think our outcomes and our output is our calling and is our character. What the truth of the matter is, you're a person of value before you've done anything. And so when you start to understand that, you start to look internally and say, okay, well, who am I apart from these things? What value and worth do I have? So for us, it starts with the I am statement. And then we flesh it out with a couple of more exercises, rounding it off with three. The second one is a celebration list. And Jesse, the celebration list isn't all of the great things that I've done. It really is this statement. And I tell them this statement directly. I say, what do you love about you?
mhm.
Because I don't know about your life, Jesse, but I know in my life, there's been times where, if you look in the mirror, the first thing you see is something you're not versus something you are. Instead of really, elevating your accomplishments and the amazing things you've done, you look at those things you could have done better. Even in, I'm sure you're not that kind of person, but for myself, for sure, where you accomplish something really amazing, but you see those times and those places where, oh, I could have done this better, or I should have done that different, right? Instead of seeing the worth and value in who you are, you start to see the holes in things that you're not. The voices in your past telling you, not good enough, not valuable enough, like with me in my childhood. Well, when you start to unpack and understand, the more I celebrate me, the more I see the truth of who I am, then you're able to start to see yourself objectively, not with a voice from your past telling you who you are. And then the third tool is the accomplishment list, and that is those things that you've done. But I tell people I've written, I think, 130 at this point. I only tell my students they need to write 20. And here's the truth, Jesse. Once you get past 15, 20, 25, you've lost all the marquee moments, all the major things in your life, right? When you get to
Mhm.
75, 85, and 100, now it's stuff like I graduated from high school, I pay all my bills on time, I get up and brush my teeth, whatever it is. And it seems kind of minuscule, and a lot of people think it's a little weird, but here's the truth of the matter. The challenge with a lot of our lives is we wait till we win the Super Bowl before we give ourselves credit for doing
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah.
And what we're doing with that accomplishment list is we're letting the people know, first off, the counteraction to feeling like you're a failure is seeing that you're a success. And
Mhm.
so what you look at when you see this list is I'm a person who has a track record of success. And even in ordinary things, a lot of guys don't realize this. They're like, well, everybody does that. Well, no, dude, everybody doesn't. Everybody doesn't do these things. Everybody isn't diligent. Everybody isn't somebody who is consistent in their life. And so, in being able to recognize those small daily wins, you first off give yourself this belief system, this resume, I call it. You have a resume of success in your life. So, when you get to your job and you're looking for that promotion, or when you're trying to start a business and it's challenging, what you realize is, no, I'm a person who's got a track record of success, small and big things in my life. And so that automatically, again, identity statement lets you know who you are, the truth of who you are. So you're banking on your successes, not those moments of failure. And secondly, it gives failure its proper perspective as a moment in time and a learning experience, not an identity statement.
Yeah, I like the celebrating those little wins. Would be similar to what you were saying on, instead of waiting for the Super Bowl, celebrate and acknowledge those little wins throughout your life. And I
Yeah.
get a question. Why do you think, because I think it's a very, very Freudian process that we do, a very Freudian philosophy of you are defined by your past or your upbringing, when oftentimes we actually have no choice over our upbringing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question, Jesse. I think, well, first and foremost, everybody is created that way. So they say this about people that by the time you're 7 years old, you've already made all your value statements as to what the world is, what the world is around you, what the relationships are that you have, and who you are. And it all comes from your experiences, from the things that you've done. And so that's kind of the psychological part of it, but it's also the developmental part of a young person growing up. And the challenge in that is, as you've already kind of alluded to, I'm making identity statements about who I am at a time when my brain isn't developed enough to be able to reason through the challenges, the issues, the struggles of my life. And you layer on top of that, when people that you respect, when people that are of authority, when people that are supposed to care and nurture for you, when they speak things that are negatively or they do things that are harmful, how those things affect your life as well. So we all have that, right? We all have those pasts and those things that we walk through. And so, what we talk to the people about in the course is that we never say, get over your past. Here's the truth that you and I know, Jesse, already. Anybody who thinks that they've gotten over their past is the only one who believes it. Everybody they're in relationship with, everybody they encounter, everybody that walks in the life with them sees that they've not gotten over it. It's only them that thinks so. So you won't get past it, but you can get through it and you can be healed from it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we tell people is we don't want you to act like your past doesn't matter. The hurts, the issues, the struggles, the lies, all of the, life happens to all of us. It just shouldn't tell you who you are anymore. And
Yeah,
so, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no. I was interrupting you, but I agree that our past shouldn't be what defines us. We get to a certain age in life where it should be our individual choices of why we are where we are,
Yeah.
even if those are influenced by society, like how we were saying, society wants to put labels on us versus us finding out our own identity. Um,
Yeah.
I've always been a little strange, a little odd, a little different because when I was in elementary school, I went to a very poor elementary school. My parents were poor. They eventually moved to middle class, upper middle class later throughout the years. But even when I was a little kid, I thought I remember learning about rich people in
Mm,
class. And I was like, oh, well, if they can do it, I can do it.
yeah.
I guess I always had a different, I mean, and my dad, he killed himself when I was like 18 months old. And
I'm
there
sorry to hear
might have
that.
been some things when I was young, but then it became something where it's like, well, I didn't want to have anything to do with him. Not anything to do with him. That's not the right words. I didn't want any outcome that he made or something he couldn't overcome
Mm,
to cause him to take his own life for me to be impacted by that and me try to lead down the same road.
yeah.
There's everybody knows who Elvis Presley is. Elvis Presley died at the same age that his mother died
Oh,
and from
wow.
the same reasons. They were both had addiction issues. They were both very similar age. And there is that aspect of where we fall into our parents' footsteps. People
Yeah.
talk about, addiction. It's like someone who comes from a family of addiction. But I
Yep.
guess I don't know why it was instilled in me, but I just, when I was little, it was just like, I was different. I can do whatever I want. I don't care what these people think. And I'm so glad that I had that. And I used to
Yeah.
tell my wife, if I could just sell this part of my mind, I would be a billionaire, first trillionaire. But I like having conversations like this with people like you who understand that we don't have to be what we've been programmed to be, whether it be
Right.
by our parents or society. Because it's something that I talk about in my videos. Like, we are programming our children, regardless of whether we
Yeah.
think we are or not. Everything about them. We can have two sons, they might be completely different, but we are still programming virtually every aspect of them.
Yeah.
And the way we parent, the way we marriage, everything is going, statistically, they will lead the same marriage, they will lead the same parenting style, etc., unless we find someone like you. We make a conscious decision first, I guess, that we want to change, and then someone finds someone like you and goes through the process to completely, I like to use the term reprogram, you
That's
use that
good.
term transformation. If unless we transform our mind, then we're just going to do the same thing. There are those exceptions, like, the guy who made it out of poverty, the person who changed this because the upbringing he saw. But generally speaking, there's too many people out there who are just going to
Yeah.
lead the exact same life and not realize that we can transform ourselves.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I love what you said because what I tell people is who you think you are, you'll become. And we have a
Mm-hmm.
3-step transformational strategy, mastering your thoughts, words, and actions. And all of change happens, literally, all of change in any person's life starts with your thoughts and your words and your actions. And
Mm-hmm.
the interesting thing is, obviously, you and whatever action you took as a young individual started with that thought, that understanding that these people aren't better than I am. I can have the same success as I am. And I'm so sorry for your loss of your father, but in that place, seeing in him an example of something you didn't want and have an assurance that you weren't going to be that person. And Jesse, for a lot of people, I may be naive, but I think that every person wants more than where they're at. That's what drove me in my own life to have more, to be better, because I knew that there was more than the life I was living, and I couldn't find it in personal development, as we've kind of unpacked a little bit already. And so I created a course because I wanted transformation. Not, I didn't want habits. I want the efficient, quickest way to get the results. And it certainly is a journey over time, but having habits for the rest of your life and calling it freedom to me is an oxymoron. And so that's why I felt transformation was the key, not change. But in that place, understanding and mastering your thoughts, words, and actions, I believe that every person at some level in some period of their life believes that there's more than what I'm living right now, whether they're in poverty or they have a relationship that's horrible or a job that they hate. I think for many of us, unfortunately, we don't find that blueprint, that thing that allows us, or that person. I believe we have an amazing course that people can use. But in that place, apart from being able to find it and trying and failing and trying and missing and all of that, eventually you let the fire die down. So my passion is, obviously through conversations and being able to have this message get out to have people understand that, no, you're right. You just haven't found that path yet, that blueprint, like I call it. But there's always this thing. I think it's in everybody, but sometimes we let the dream die because we try and we fail, or we try and we don't find it. And then we just figure like this, that's why I called my book Life Mastery: Living Life by Design, Not by Default.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, most everybody I know is living by default, and I was as well, which means that there's just, thinking that my life is just about this good, and I can succeed and try and overcome stuff, or I try and gain income to prove that I'm a person of worth. But like I talked about that multi-million, or that with the conversation where he was saying that this is just something to manage that goes along with success. We tolerate things that we're actually supposed to be victorious over, and that's that life by default that everybody has. And at the point where you're just tolerating it, all of a sudden the dream dies. My hope is to rekindle that fire and that dream, like you're doing with the community you're involved in, so people understand that no, there's a different path, there's a different way of living life that actually can give you the results that you want.
Yeah, I don't believe it's naive at all to think that most people want more or feel this longing for more, this urgency, this want in their life. I think that is literally the reality.
Yeah.
Completely. Now, you might find people in a third world country who just don't know any different because they don't have any access to the outside world. But I
Right.
know in the Western culture, I'm just going to go on a limb and say it's a fact that most people want more, and they, exactly like you said, they do give up on what they feel like their purpose is, their meaning in life, what they're passionate about, because there isn't a societal aspect where we tell them, no, you can't do that. You should just focus on this. You should stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's people closest to them who crush their dreams. And
Yeah.
then they don't actually go after who they actually are as a human. And they get stuck in like this rat race, whatever you want to call it. And I think most people are miserable. I really do.
There's definitely a lot of people like that. And it's interesting. The people that I work with, I work with people who are typically in two realms. They're either people who are striving for more in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe wanting to start a business, or they're wanting to, kind of increase in their impact within their job, the role that they have. They're trying to move up in the corporate environment, or business owners, business entrepreneurs who are, or have been, they've been, I don't want to call it a lie, but this false understanding that when I'm successful, everything else will work out. When I'm
Yeah.
successful, I'll feel good about myself. When I'm successful, fear of failure will leave me. When I'm successful, I won't feel like, I'm an imposter in whatever role I'm in. And then they get to that place of success and find out, like I'd said earlier, that you get about 10 minutes of satisfaction, and then you got to do the next thing
Mm-hmm.
because it only lasts for so long. And then those thoughts creep in and you have to try and succeed again. So
They're
there's
forever
definitely
chasing. They're ever
exactly.
chasing that feeling.
Well, and it's what, I'm not trying to blame society, but it is kind of that standard of my outward world is going to make up for my inward thoughts. And at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, that's not the case. And even if you get there, the people that I find that I work with, again, Brett's one of the guys that I think about who's got amazing financial success in the real estate realm and in business development. And he never had any kind of joy in his business. His success was really just a relief that he didn't fail in that transaction, but there was never this sense of, I'm doing great. I'm really living out what I'm really created for, until again, you start to transform your thoughts, words, and actions. You start aligning with who you are, not trying to have your life make up the difference. And in that place, your life changes. You're not just financially successful, but you're fulfilled. Your relationships are better. For him, his home life, he wasn't a horrible husband or father, but you know that when you have stress in business, you think that you can compartmentalize your emotions and I'm just going to be normal at home. No, everybody can sense,
Yeah.
you have that feeling of dread or whatever it is that follows you around. But in that
Hmm.
place where you're not using your work to make up for your identity, but you're really being unleashed from who you are, now all of a sudden that confidence, that assurance, that real guy shows up, and everything's different. His marriage is different. He's invested and engaged with his kids. His life is better. His decisions are better. His mindset and thought processes, emotions, everything aligns in a way that really starts to expand and increase what you're able to do and the impact you're able to have.
So I really like this example because I tell men, and let me know your thoughts on this. I think we're on the same page. I tell men that you look at any life on Instagram, TV,
Mm,
social media, you have the ability to have that. But
yeah.
you also need to be whole enough as a man that if it's all taken away, like an example of Job out of the
Yeah.
story of Job out of the Bible,
Yeah.
that you are still such at peace with yourself because your identity isn't through that Instagram social media life.
Yeah.
It's all possible to have and attain for, I believe, any man: the abs, the money, the car, the wife, the kids.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that anyone has to give up something in order to get something else. You don't have to give up your kids to have the business, your wife,
Yeah.
because you want to be a great father there for them, husband, the money, your community, giving back to your church, etc. But if it's all taken away, how are you going to feel as a man if you're suddenly under a bridge?
That's
And
good.
it's like, if you're not okay with it suddenly being taken away and being under a bridge, then you probably are not going to ever be happy with all those things either.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lot that you said there for sure. And to me, there's a couple of things. The first is, it's not only that, not being settled when you've lost whatever, lost everything, lost some things. It's understanding this, that life happens to everybody.
Hmm.
So whatever, not that bankruptcy happens to everybody or health issues or whatever, but everybody has life, and with life comes challenge. Challenge is guaranteed.
Hmm.
You mentioned the Bible. It's guaranteed in the Bible. In this world, you will have trouble,
Hmm.
and that's fine. But what I tell the people that I work with is, you're not the question in the circumstance you're walking into. You're the answer. You're the answer to every circumstance you're walking into, not the question to be figured out. What
Hmm.
that means is, whether I have amazing success and I'm hitting on all cylinders and everything's amazing in my life, or I'm having challenges and the bankruptcies around the corner, or whatever those circumstances are I'm unshakable in them. And that's the thing I
Yes.
would say, is that you can become an unshakable individual because I'm not shaken in who I know I am, despite what's going on around me. And the second thing I would say is this: you're spot on. What we talk about in life mastery is the five spheres of life mastery, and they are the spiritual, relational, vocational, physical, financial. Spiritual, relational, vocational, physical, financial. And what we talk about is exactly what you said, where there's a difference between success and fulfillment. Success is me just being good enough, work long enough, work hard enough, outwork everybody else around me until I finally outachieve them. And
Hmm.
we know people, we can name them by name, that have been that successful and either totally bankrupted themselves or had success in one area and another area of their life was a disaster. I don't believe that's what anybody's called to. So it's exactly what you're talking about. We named five areas, which I believe are the five big areas of life and life mastery. Because what we tell the people we work with, what I tell the people that I coach is, you should have goals and visions in each of these areas. And it's exactly what you said, where there's a life that you're supposed to live. I call it, again, effortless excellence in every area of life. And it isn't me saying that everybody can be a multimillionaire or everybody can whatever. jump like LeBron James or whatever the
Mhm.
thing is you want to have as the epitome of success. But saying that you living out your maximum level of life in each area is going to be better than anything you could have imagined. But it's living that out in all areas of life. Because the one thing that doesn't change, as we talked about earlier, to wrap it around to characters you're calling, because you don't change. Because I'm
Yeah.
the same in my spiritual realm, in my physical realm, in my financial realm. You're the secret sauce that doesn't change. And so every area of your life can be lived at in the maximum level because of that, because you know who you are. It all comes from identity. If you don't know that, then you're striving instead of remaining in the things that you're called to do.
Yeah, and man, I'm glad you're on so people can hear these things because I like how you use a little different verbiage than I would normally use, and so I think this can help get across to some people out there
I
because I
appreciate it.
believe I believe that we just underachieve often and we get in this thing of wanting to only chase the you could say adult report card of
Hmm.
house, boat, career,
Yeah.
but it's like, are you even like happy as a human chasing this one thing only because you found a lane to
Yeah.
chase this one thing? But when you are
Yeah.
sitting there at 60, 65 years old, are you and your wife even going to be happy, like truly in love with each other? Or is it just going to be the person you've lived with for the last 40 years?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's so
Absolutely.
much to it. Like what kind of relationship are you really going to have with your kids? And again, I'm not saying this from a point where I don't want people to have money. I want $1 billion.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm saying it to a point of too often we want to get this quick satisfaction and we leave other things we leave them hanging out to dry.
Yeah.
You're only going to church on Sunday. So it's like, where actually is your relationship with God? If you only show up on Sunday just to check the box, who's really raising your children?
Yeah.
You know, what kind of relationship do you really have with your wife? Like, are you in shape? Are you hitting the gym? How are you treating your body? Or are you just chasing that adult report card because your neighbor just got a new truck? His wife is
That's
driving a
good.
brand new Beamer.
That's good. And here's the truth of the matter with the people I work with, and I'm sure you know with folks you work with as well. On the outside, again, you talk about Instagram, that Instagram idea of their life must be perfect because they're taking that amazing vacation or they have that beamer, they have the boat, they have the car, they have the house. And what you find out when you get there, and the people that I work with, I find out is they have that high level of success. And if you knew them on the inside, if you knew them when they woke up at 3 in the morning,
Hmm.
panicked because they didn't know if that business transaction was going to ruin them, didn't know if this was going to happen, couldn't figure out how that was going to happen, right? It's the person on the inside, especially guys, right? It's that man on the inside that we don't let anybody else see. I've got it all together, but those
Hmm.
things that are happening when nobody's around, right? Here's the truth of the matter. What life mastery looks like is this, and I'm sure you've been there, Jesse, because I can see that in you. That when you find this thing that you're passionate about, you're creative for it, right? This thing that you could put so much time into that you start to lose track of time, that your wife has to, hey, call you in for food, and you're regretting that you have to step away from this thing to go and do stuff, or you have to go get ready for a party or a baby shower, whatever the thing is, but you're like, man, you're in the middle of it and you're like, man, you're losing track of time. You're just like, they call it in the zone or
Yeah,
whatever you
yeah.
want to call it, right? This effortless excellence where it's just meant me pouring out my passion. That's exactly who God created you to be in every area of your life. And
Hmm.
isn't it's not just in the things that you're missing, it's in this a life that you're living, this passion that you could have in your marriage and relationships, in your spiritual walk, in your financial, in your physical, right? It's just knowing that, man, this is exactly me being lived out. You're not striving to try and prove you're worth something. You're not trying to get that adult report card of income to show now I matter. Now you need to respect me. No,
Yeah.
you don't when you're in the middle of your thing, I mean, you're not looking for a pat on the back. You're not looking for somebody to give you an attaboy. You're not worried about what your past is. You're just like, man, this is me. This is me lived out. That's the life that we're created for. And you miss it when you have that adult report card. And so my business is amazing and my family's falling apart. Or I have all the possessions and I feel empty on the inside. There's a difference between that and life mastery. And it doesn't mean everybody's supposed to be a millionaire, but if that's your level of fulfillment that you're created for, you won't be satisfied with anything less.
Hmm.
But check this out. But if that's not what fulfillment is for you, then that $1 million is a poor substitute for a life well lived.
Yeah. Yeah. And we only get one. We
Yeah.
have, again, we have this cultural thing in the West, in America, that we're actually just going to live forever. So like we'll be able to do that down the road or fix this later, or it doesn't matter right now. Because people don't realize that everything we do does compound over time,
Yeah.
for the good, the bad, or the ugly. So making those changes, actually deciding to make those transformational changes like you're talking about, I mean, they're so important, and people need to be hearing about things like this more than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the life that you're created to live. And so my passion, as it is in your life as well, is for people to realize that there's a different path and there's a different outcome. And it's amazing if you're willing to put in the time to get there. And I was talking to a guy today, actually, Jesse, and it's interesting because he said, well, it seems like that takes a lot of energy. And I told him, oh, here's the secret of my program. Everything I talk about, identity, mastering your thoughts, words, and actions, they're things you're already doing.
Hmm.
You're already living from an identity. It's either who you're created to be or what your life has told you. And the outcomes are completely different. And the fulfillment and excitement in life is completely different. You're already doing mastering your thoughts, words, and actions. What you don't realize is that they're negatively impacting you instead of positively doing so.
Yes.
That life by design versus default. Life by default is I just fight off the thoughts when they come and they keep coming, and anger happens or fear happens or whatever. And, if I'm a Christian, I throw up my big scriptures and it, believe me, I'm a man of faith as well. And I believe that the word of God is powerful, but it's not a magic formula to overcome your lack of being able to walk in the truth. And so when you're starting to throw out things, you're trying to, create mantras and things like that, generic things to try and fight them off. What you're doing is living by default. And
Hmm.
as I tell people, life mastery is the easiest thing to do. If I living from who I'm created to be in every area of life is the easiest possible thing for me to do. I don't have to build myself up to be me. I don't have to prove myself. I don't have to exhaust myself to prove who I am. But in that place of living from life management and not knowing who I am, that's exhausting because I have to always create success. I have to always have income. I have to always be on. I have to always be perfect. I have to always have all of the income and all of the things. And that's exhausting. Life mastery is the easiest life possible. And all it takes is one transformation of changing what you've done by default, identity, mastering your thoughts, words, and actions, to doing it by design, understanding that when you do it by design, now I'm sudden I'm empowering myself, like we talked about earlier, to unleash that hero in hiding in every area of your life.
Yeah, doing the things by default, it just seems miserable because other things are dictating your outcome.
Yeah,
Yeah, some external influences, regardless of what they are in each individual's life, is dictating their outcome. The things that
absolutely.
their parents said, the things that maybe their parents wanted them to go to college or not do, follow art or music or whatever it was, or, and now they're in this other job, and then their neighbors, social media, the news, fear.
Yep.
There's just so many things in. Uh, I really enjoy this topic because I feel that I am one of the luckiest humans on earth because of the relationship that I have with my wife. It's like I never could have imagined the amount of love I
Hmm,
have for my wife.
that's awesome.
The relationship that I have with my sons, the relationship I have with my parents, just the people around me, just really everything, work.
Yeah.
And one of the things, though, that I think has allowed me to have it is because, kind of going back to the story of Job, it's like I have an unshakable faith in God. And I realize that or to me, we're only here for a temporary amount of time. The next chapter is going to the Holy Land.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know when I'm going or what. But with that being said, it's like you can't get stuck in these worldly problems, getting programmed at a default,
Yeah.
like you were saying, instead of by choice and by purpose. So when other people are just going through the motions of life is where I'm like, man, this is sad. And often, specifically men, they'll be so prideful in where they are in life and or so incredibly insecure they don't want to change
Yeah.
because they can't overcome their own securities.
Yeah.
And these insecurities that men have are going to put blinders on them, and they're not going to realize that they have a shitty marriage, they have a shitty relationship with their kids,
Yeah.
they're out of shape, that they could be doing something far more purposeful and maybe even make more money if they change these things about themselves. Have no relationship with God, even though they might wear a cross necklace. All the above, because they just can't get out of their own insecurities. Because it can be hard for a man to be so humble enough that he's like, you know what? I do have to change. I have to transform myself, like you're saying, and be
Yeah.
even willing to reach out. It's one of the things about my coaching program. Majority of the time, it's wives who reach out to me. Can you help my husband? Because men are too prideful. Men aren't just like raising their hand to sign up for a coach to
Yeah.
help them change their relationship, change how they are as a man, anything. They're
Yeah.
usually not just lining up, or at least my experience. For me specifically, it's wives who are saying, my husband does this, my husband does this. Can you help? What are your thoughts? And I won't work with women. I just don't believe that um, they should, that a man and a woman should be, what's the term? I forget. Anyways, just opening up to each other on that personal basis, especially if I don't know them. But
Yeah.
it's like, we'll do something where it's like, okay, we'll call it a couple session for 6 weeks, and then we transform it to only the man, because there will be just so much pride and insecurity, and it's like, I
Yeah.
don't need this. If she feels that she needs this, then I'll do it. And it's like, wow, it's like
Yeah.
you're not even willing to admit that you're the problem.
Yeah. It's definitely a challenge. And I think, first and foremost, well, a couple of things. The first thing is this: some of the bravest people I know are the men who are willing to do that, willing to raise
Hmm.
their hand and say, I don't have it all together and I'm tired of trying to figure it out myself. Or I've, gone down this road and done something wrong, or whatever the thing is. Being able to confront the fact that you don't have it all together, to me, is one of the bravest things that men can do. And so I'm so um, excited and humbled by the guys that I work with, and I'm sure you are as well, because I know from my own personal journey that it's so much easier to put walls and act like nothing's wrong and don't let anybody in. It's easy to do, but at the end of the day, you don't want to be that person doing that. So yeah, and the second thing is, guys don't know that there's an alternative. And when we have an alternative, the alternative is I need to act like I don't have it all together. While at the same time, the world is saying you got to have it all together, and people have an expectation of it. So it's not all on men. It's kind of sometimes the way we're raised. But at the end of the day, the responsibility is, man, you can't change your life until something changes. And if you knew
Yeah.
how to get there, you'd already be there. So being able to raise your hand and say that, first off, it's the most challenging part. But from that point, now all of a sudden, those things that have been lying to you can't lie to you anymore.
Hmm. And here's the thing. Like, take me for an example. Like, someone can ask my opinion, and I will give my opinion. You know,
Yeah.
it almost comes off as someone like a know-it-all. But it's like, here's the thing. I continue today, and for years have sought out information of why someone's living like this. Why do you what it is what's in your secret sauce?
Yeah.
Like, what is a masculine man who walks with Christ? What does that really look like?
Yeah.
I had to be so humble that I was like reaching out to other people, reaching out, reading, listening to this podcast, listening. Maybe I don't even agree, but just it's like, okay, this is interesting. I had to be so open for years because I was in a place with my wife before we were married, where I look back on it and I was like, man, that guy, he acted like a little bitch.
Yeah.
It's like, and I realized that that's not how a man should carry himself. So then I really had to open my mind to, what does a man look like? What does a masculine man look like? How how does a man who is of faith, how he can be a masculine man, reach into that dark place when he needs to overcome something? Like, I was just so curious about all those things, and so I had to dive into it. And I
Yeah.
wasn't I wasn't scared to ask, because I didn't care what anyone thought, which is another big thing. We care what other people think.
Yeah.
If I cared what people thought, I probably wouldn't do as much social media as I do. I wouldn't be doing this. But it's just like, my wife, just, she encouraged me to post this stuff that I was like experiencing, and my thought process on how to be a husband. She's like, just post it, which was cool. And then
Yeah.
just meeting other people and wanting to continue to work to be better. And I don't use better as like, I'm better at this than you. To better actually just means someone who's put in more work or effort into something. LeBron James is better at basketball than me. Yeah, he's 6'9", but he's put in more work than me, if we're the same age, ever since he started playing basketball. I didn't, so he is better.
Yeah.
So better is just the amount of effort we're willing to put into something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um,
And where it aligns with who you're created to be is where it
mhm.
is maximizing your life. So I can get better at things that I'm not created to be because I'm trying to match up to somebody else. But I love what you said about yourself, Jesse, because it's literally it's me becoming the best me that I can be. And that
Mhm.
means that I'm great at my whatever, my vocation, my business, my job. If I'm an athlete and I'm trying to do that, it means I'm the best at my position, right? As much as I can be. We can't all be LeBron James. We can't all be, whatever, whoever's in the baseball playoffs now. You can't all be the Olympic gold champion, but you can be the best at what you can do. And at the end of the day, when you're doing that, you have the fulfillment of somebody who may have been better, but just decided not to put the effort into it.
Mhm.
So I love that. And what I also love, Jesse, is that I think there's guys who are forerunners, and they're the people who go ahead, right? There's the trailblazer who finds the path, and there's the ones who come behind who follow the path. And
Mhm.
so,
Yeah.
obviously in your life, you're one of those guys who's, because of who, again, who God created you to be, even from a young age, you were somebody who was different. And in that difference, you're creating a path for other men to follow who would want to be there, but wouldn't necessarily be that guy that does it first. And so there's always those guys. And I think for a lot of the men we work with, there's always some aspect of your life that's like that. But it's awesome that you're able to be that person to do it, who can overcome those things in your own life, be willing to do the hard work, the vulnerability work, the authentic work of saying, I don't have it all together, but I'm not willing to stay here, to give other guys that path to find those things in their own life. You can't take somebody to a place you've never been. But when you've
Yeah.
been there, you know exactly how to take them there.
Yeah, that ruffled some feathers in one of my Bible studies once. Because it was just like, we can't follow someone who's never been there. And
Nor should
now
you.
again, yeah, again, like you said, there are trailblazers, someone who's never been there, who's going, and I think that is great. But there becomes a point for me who is like, I want to meet someone like you, who you've done it, you've done the transformation, you've helped others get to the top of the mountain. I heard someone once say, once you get to the top of the mountain, go back down and bring people back up.
Exactly.
And I still, to this day, in almost every aspect of my life, I reach out to other people who I look up to with their faith in God, finances, and even going to the gym, right? Helping me with my programming at the gym,
Yeah.
being more of a husband, so my wife feels safe and secure. Being a father, like, men need men to hold each other accountable in all those areas. Like, we
Yeah.
we just simply do. And if you are a man, there's that saying, you are the product of your five closest people. And if you're an insecure man hanging out with a bunch of insecure buddies, and you guys just want to have beers, nothing will ever change.
Yeah, exactly. I was telling my wife this week actually, talking about relationships and really growing and being in relationships that really stretch you. You know, it's
Hmm.
that same. It's the old adage: if you're the biggest fish in the pond you're in the wrong pond.
Hmm.
So if you're the
Yeah.
only one that's doing and changing in the group that you're with, you might be in the wrong group.
Hmm. Me and my wife call it finding our people.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
sometimes there is an aspect of it that might be sad because you're leaving people who you used to hang out with, be close with, you were raising your guys' kids together. But in order to continue to grow as a human, and we should be striving to grow in all aspects of our life till the end, sometimes you have to find your new people. It's just the reality.
Yeah,
Now, maybe you can pull some of them along with you, but most likely it's not going to happen.
yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, you know, if you're a believer, if you're a Christian, God's created you for a life, and you can either live that life at the maximum level that you're created for, or what's comfortable. You can't do
Mhm.
both. And there's no growth and transformation and comfort, but there is fulfillment and a passion lived out. And so being able to do that and have those relationships, I'm not telling anybody to, like, you're also not telling anybody to cut off the relationships you have. But at some point in relationship, as any of us have, can attest to, when I'm growing in a way, right? I used to hang out with the boys and we used to get drunk on the weekend, but now I've got a wife, now I've got kids, now I've got a different life. If I'm got a different life living the old habits, then I'm double minded, as it says in the Word of God, and I'm no good to anybody.
Mhm.
But when you understand where you're going, when you have a direction in your life, and frankly, to be totally honest, Jesse, when I'm passionate and living out the passion of my life, that really is my focus. And so if you're on board with that, then great. Let's go there together. If you're not, then that's okay as well. But I'm unwilling to diminish and water down my future to make other people happy. I'll bless them in their journey, but I'm going to fulfill what God's called me to do. And I think we're all created for that. And heaven forbid, at the end of the day, right? You said you whatever your age you are, and you don't know how long you're going to live. But at the end of the day, my biggest fear is getting to heaven and finding out that I left some things on the table that if I would have just been bolder, I would have been able to find those things and have those things and achieve those things and have an impact in those areas. I want to be able to have everything that I was created for, not just some of them because I settled for. I don't think any man wants to have a settled for life.
Oh, but the graveyard is full of unfulfilled dreams and goals.
It can be, but we're not going to be
That's
one of them.
exactly. Um, I will say, if anyone is living a life of quiet desperation and they truly want to transform themselves, I'm going to be the one who says, cut off all your current relationships because they're going to be the ones who are going to want to drag you back down the second they see you transforming yourself. And they're not going to do it out of spite or intentionally, but subconsciously, they are worried that you are going to leave them as you are starting to level up if you start to find your purpose in life. So I will
Yeah.
say, cut those guys off. You
Yeah.
got to cut, sometimes you got to cut the cancer out. You don't just put a band aid on it.
Well, it makes itself self-evident. And again, I'm not trying to be a downer on relationships. I think of Alex Hermosi. I don't know if you listen to him. He's huge in
He's
the
great.
business sector.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says this thing. I mean, this guy will cut off a relationship in a minute. I'm not trying to down talk him or anything, but he says this. He says that he's been in relationships where, you know, you kind of go back home and you meet the old friends and all of that, and you're not trying to do the things that you used to do. You're not trying to be that same old person. You kind of you're going places. You have goals and dreams, and you're really striving for it. And he said that he's had people in his life that has, you know, told him, you know, that phrase, you know, you've changed, as if it was something that's negative. And his response to them has been, and you haven't.
And you haven't. Yes,
and,
I've heard him say that. And it's
so,
so.
and again, I'm not trying to put people
Mhm.
down, but at some point, if we're not traveling down the same road, then one of us is holding back the other, and that doesn't benefit anybody.
Yeah. It doesn't. And it will be the thing that prevents you the most. If you're not willing to leave that circle, maybe again, maybe one of them is gonna willing to go on that journey with you.
Yeah.
Statistically, they're not. And it can be hard. But if you truly find your purpose in life and they actually see you just glowing, one of them, they may want to know what it is you're doing, what that secret sauce is. And then it's like, hey, life mastery,
Yeah.
I transform myself and I'm truly living out my purpose and passion in life. And I don't have definitions put on me that can be taken away,
Yeah.
because you can't take away my character. You can't take away how I carry myself and represent my name, of who I am as a man and a human. Those things can't be
Absolutely.
taken away.
Right. And that's the thing. The outcome is, again, when you're living from who you're created to be, nobody else can lie to you. Nobody else
Mm-hmm.
can tell you you're something you're not. Nobody else can dissuade you from living out that life that you're created for. When you understand who you are, when you don't understand who you are, then it's popular opinion. It's then what do my friends think? What's the easiest thing so I can be comfortable? There's a difference between the two. But again, walking in that journey, when you understand and continue to walk in who you're created to be, that is a singular passion. And that is something there's no fulfillment in any other place of your life that could match being that person lived out.
Mm-hmm. Mark, I love this, man. Um, what else do you got for us before we close this out? What's one little tidbit, piece of advice, one golden nugget that you can leave us off with?
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of comes along with what we just talked about, which is this: people are always desiring to have more in their life. And the thing that I did in walking out this life mastery journey, right? Young adult, teenage, young adult into adulthood, trying to find all the personal development, all the things that I did, right? I created life mastery because I found courses that brought change in habits, but not transformation. I created a transformational course because I couldn't find one. But in that place, I tried multiple courses, books, systems, seminars, all of these things to try and find that impact in my life. And the one thing that I did right throughout the whole process was I never gave up on myself. I was unwilling to give up on the belief that there was more than the life I was living. And I was willing to bet on myself one more time. When the second one, the third one, the fourth one didn't work out, I still refused to believe that I couldn't have more than where I was at. And so for the guys that are out there that are saying, I've tried stuff, or, it's too hard, or like you talked about, I mean, all these things that we've unpacked in this conversation, at the end of the day, it really comes down to one thing. Are you willing to bet on yourself one more time? Are you willing to refuse to give up on you and the life that you could live, the person you do believe that you can be, even if that guy hasn't been showing up in your business, your job, your relationships, right? Just because you've made mistakes doesn't mean you are one. And so at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, are you willing to bet on yourself one more time? The good news for you is you don't have to create a transformational course. I have one that I believe is amazing in presenting and giving results with tools and strategies for you to unleash your hero in hiding. But it takes one element that I don't have, and that is this: you being willing to bet on you, to be willing to say, no, man, I'm gonna continue to believe in me, even if the rest of the evidence and people around me don't, until I find that thing that lets that guy come out, that hero in hiding. If you do that, then it'll happen, and you'll be able to find the strategies and the transformational tools. I certainly have some I can provide, but what I can't provide is your motivation and your willingness to believe in you. You provide that, and I believe the rest of it is going to fall into line for you.
Where can people find you?
Yeah,
Website,
absolutely.
social media, etc.
Um, Website, I try and be a one-stop shop, Jesse. So it's underscore, excuse me, it's freedom4life.net, freedom-for-life.net, freedom-for-life.net. Over there, you can find my courses. You can also find my book. And actually, I created an ebook to make it easier. You can get my book on Amazon. But the great thing about the ebook is you can get it in your phone, your iPad, wherever you're at. It's less than $10. And think about this: it's less than $10 for you to get the transformational tools and strategies to live out the life you're created for. The things that you and I've talked about, all of those strategies played out and illustrated in that book. That's on my website. I have a YouTube channel underscore freedom for life underscore. I try and use it as a resource to give guys a weekly nugget to be able to live out their life and live it better. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook under Freedom for Life as well. So I'm out in all of the social, just trying to invest in the community. But the website is where you can find all those bells and whistles. But I would really recommend the ebook so that you can. What I tell people is this: it's a shortcut to your life mastery journey. You can find, something you read today that you can implement this week that can transform your life this month. So all of that's out on my website.
Awesome. Mark, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I'm glad you reached out to me. I really am. This was good.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited to be in the journey with you. So thanks for having me.
Of course.